Get fully into your own world with those.
Oh, of course. So, are you ready?
Ready.
Hello, Jade.
Hi, Otto.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me on.
I'm excited and I'm curious to hear more about your story and occupational therapy and fitness and whatever we find on the way.
Absolutely.
So please tell us your story.
So I am 23. I have been a fitness instructor for nearly 3 years now and just recently graduated my 4-year occupational therapy degree. So that was a long journey, but super excited and super glad that I actually finished it off. There was a minute there that I was questioning it. I also have done a precision nutrition level 1 nutrition course and just fully qualified in advanced specialist behavior change psychology. So I have just launched my new business called Growth, which incorporates all those kind of professions into one and is completely online at the moment. So it's been a long kind of journey building up to, first of all, occupational therapy wasn't kind of my first choice. I originally wanted to do nursing, then got the points to do medicine, missed the HPAT, and then settled for occupational therapy. But it honestly, I think it's solidified that everything kind of happens for a reason. Because during the journey of doing the degree, I really struggled with it. I had no idea why I was doing it. And then literally in the last few months after I finished my final placement, it all kind of aligned and made sense how it fits in the fitness industry. So, yeah.
And so you could tell us how it all fits in.
Yeah. So a lot of people kind of don't know what occupational therapy is.
I didn't know either.
Yeah, I'd be lying
I thought
as
it's
well.
like to helping people find a job.
No, that's what everybody thinks it is. But I'd be lying if I fully knew what it was when I started doing it. I knew about it through my younger sister. So my younger sister has Williams syndrome, and so that's kind of an unknown disability as well. So it's kind of neurodevelopmental disorder, and but she's doing brilliant. So she had an occupational therapist, and it helped her kind of with her functional abilities. So things from literally tying her shoelaces to helping her read, helping her get set up, to sensory difficulties, etc. So basically what occupational therapy is, in a nutshell, is looking at your occupations, whether you are a child, whether you're an older adult looking to get some independence, whether you're after an accident, an injury, a stroke. It's looking at your occupations, and occupations can be broken down into leisure, productivity, and self-care. Which your productivity, that's what your job falls underneath. So it's basically maximizing people's occupations to enable them to kind of live their life to the fullest. So adapting for kind of children with disability, or adapting for older adults, compensating for people who have lost mobility due to stroke, due to injury, and it's adapting their occupations to maximize their life and maximize their quality of life. So in terms of fitness, it is looking at how we can look at people's routines, habits, roles, responsibilities, and how that impacts kind of their fitness life. So the world is like a very busy place right now. Everyone has 101 things going on, and a lot of people don't have time for fitness, time for their goals. And it's about taking a completely different approach onto looking at how their daily lives, how their daily occupations impacts or enables them to achieve their fitness goals. So it's taking a kind of roundabout way of looking at fitness, similarly to the medical world. I feel like the medical world is moving a lot more from the medical model, the traditional model, to looking at the biopsychosocial model. So traditional medicine, it looks at the disability, it looks at the illness, and the people are defined by that. Whereas now in the world, it's moving a lot more towards what are they able to do? Instead of looking at their disability, they're looking at their abilities. Instead of looking at their illness and injury and automatically prescribing them medication, it's looking at other ways in their life that they could, so like the non-pharmacological ways that they could improve that way. And then in the fitness industry, it's not kind of looking at, okay, get on the treadmill now and run a 5K. It's about building up your tolerance. It's also about looking at your mental side, your emotional side, your social environment, and how that all impacts on on your physical well-being and physical fitness.
Wow, interesting. Well said. And I have a question. You mentioned the behavioral psychology.
Yes.
So could you expand on that and the applications to everyday life?
Yeah. So behaviors, like a behavior can be anything. It can be what time we wake up at in the morning. It can be our behaviors having pardon?
Addictions as well.
Yeah, exactly. Addictions. It's like there can be very simple behaviors to more complicated behaviors. So it's kind of looking at the process of how we actually change them. So there's loads of interesting models, but the one that I kind of am focusing in on the most in terms of fitness and health behaviors is the trans-theoretical model of change. So it's looking at all the stages. So whether it is addictions or whether it is simple behaviors that you're looking to change, whether that's coming home at night after a long day and eating a full pint of ice cream, or it's trying to come back from like drug addictions, alcohol addictions, overuse. So it's looking at, you have your pre-contemplation stage, which is you're not even thinking about the issue. You don't even realize it's a problem. You kind of, it's just, you're completely blind to it, to the contemplation stage where you're kind of like, okay, this is probably not the best thing for me. Starting to think about it a little bit, but you're not really taking any actions on it. Then your preparation stage is that you're actually like, right, okay, I need to actually change this. And you're starting to think about it. You're starting to implement small steps. And you're probably going to be taking action on this in about a month's time. Then you have your action stage where you're actually looking at the movements. You're looking at making steps. Just say you get yourself a personal trainer, you get yourself a coach, you get yourself some guidance, some social support, and intrinsic motivations as well. So you're actually ready and you're going to take steps on this. And then you have your maintenance stage, which a lot of people sometimes don't reach. And if you do reach it, there is nearly 90% of the time a relapse, which this model also counters for. So coaches can be brilliant to get people into their action stage, into their maintenance stage for a month, and then they're not aware of catching the relapse. And there's always certain times as well to kind of catch that, which I think is really important as a coach to know when to step in, when to dip out, when to leave them to be independent, and when to kind of step in a little bit more and drive them and catch them kind of before they fall too deep.
Yeah. So how would you help someone to change their behavior? Let's say someone who has a problem with overeating. So what are the sort of key steps you would, as a coach, help or suggest people to take the process?
So I think with a lot of coaches at the moment, it's very superficial. They can put in steps to stop overeating, like eat more protein with your meals, eat more vegetables. Do you know what I mean? But it's overeating as well. I think it's something like 85% of overeating is because there's something intrinsically bothering you. There's something, there's something that you're trying to satisfy. So like overeating can be down to restriction during the day. It can be down to comfort. It can be down to looking for something to satisfy you, especially if you're really busy, really stressed. Sometimes people look to food as their form of self-care, or as their form of leisure. It gives them that temporary relief and temporary comfort. And yes, there is loads of hacks to stop overeating, but people who are going through a lot, people who are stressed, people who don't have the time to meal prep, to cook, it's about finding why they're doing it. It's asking why. And it's actually working with the person, not working with the overeating. It's actually looking at them as a whole and taking a completely individualized approach instead of looking at overeating as a concept and trying to give generic guidelines. Because if generic guidelines worked, if generic programming worked, we'd all be excelling our goals right now. We'd be up beyond what we expected and we'd all be ripped and eating well and have the best diet in the world. So yeah, I think I would definitely get down to the nitty gritty of why. Why is it happening?
So I guess that's really important for any personal coach, personal trainer, to be able to have skills of some kind of behavioral psychology and reinforcing positive reinforcements.
That's
and also, I believe lead you by an example that actually coach has to figure their stuff out
That's
first.
it. Yeah.
So then you cannot sell something you don't have.
Yeah.
You know, you can
yeah.
tell them the theory, but they go looking at you, and you're in a great shape. But imagine you're a fat trainer, and then you try to coach someone on like how to become lean, and he's like, "Hey man, you're not inspiring me," or "Hey woman, you're not inspiring me." So I'd say we as coach, we have quite responsibility as well with how we sort of present ourselves and how much of self-mastery we do, so the client can actually pick on that energy, pick on that vibe.
Yeah, practice what you preach.
Yeah, I think so. It's not easy because obviously I can see, you know, it's not that easy for a lot of people to stay lean. I guess it's overeating as well, drinking, you know. For most people, I think it's not that they lack exercise, for coaches especially, but it's actually I think, overeating, overdrinking.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for that. So I think I think it's consistency. Like a lot of people, I think nowadays with the lifestyle that we live now, like there's a lot, it's just busy and people are doing things and we're traveling and we're going away and we're breaking that routine. And what people find really difficult from experience and from my own personal experience is that people nowadays are just so excessive. We go from 0 to 100, from 100 to 0. And it's so hard to find that momentum, that routine that you can kind of come back to. You can break, but come back to. So consistency is just so important that we don't have to be perfect every day. We don't even have to be great every day. But being kind of good majority of days is what you need to see progress. And that's something that I've learned like throughout the years. I've tried all of the diets, yo-yo diets, and the only thing that works is that you just show up for yourself, and it's discipline, and that's what coaches are there for. But it's also about not taking the process too seriously as well, because if you're waking up every day and you have these huge goals to hit and you're not enjoying it and you're taking yourself really seriously, like you're not going to enjoy life and you're just going to fall back into your old habits. You're going to fall back into trying to find some joy somewhere. Whereas what's been a huge epiphany for me is trying to find joy in every day. So like the smallest things, like if you don't want to go and do your program that day, get to the gym, walk in the treadmill for 10 minutes. That's showing that you're being consistent. That's showing that you're being disciplined. And if you get there, you're probably going to want to do your workout because you're in the environment and you've gotten yourself there. And it's that kind of self-actualization piece that you're hitting, that you're like, okay, I'm good at this. Do you know what I mean? And you're hitting yourself and you're satisfying yourself. And it's that accomplishment as well that you're feeling. So I think what's the most important thing is that you do it for yourself. You are disciplined and you're consistent and you're able to get back into routine even after taking a week holiday, because we're allowed.
Yeah, of course.
And it's also about working hard to play hard at the end of the day. So like you do your work when you can, and then you take your rest because in a way that you've deserved it, you've earned it, and you get to a position that you can actually enjoy it. But it's not that you're constantly working for that 1 week holiday, because if you're working for that 1 week holiday, after that 1 week holiday,
misery again.
Yeah, you're back to square one. And then the next time the holiday comes around, it's the same cycle, and it's just unenjoyable. It's just not a lifestyle. It's not a lifestyle to live. It's not a lifestyle that's sustainable, or that's going to benefit you.
I find it also by observing people in the gym I mostly work out in David Lloyd Club, and so there's a bit of community. I've been there for 3 years, so I start to know people, and it's actually nice to see, hello, hey, how are you?
Yeah.
It's like you're looking forward to, and then also you work out, you see this guy, this lady, they're there every time you're there, and you go like, so like we have consistency, and you start to feel proud. It's like, I'm here, even if you do 20 minutes or 30 minutes, you still do something, and it's satisfying as well. And it's good to see, let's say, so we were talking about it in the last podcast as well, the community of the gym is that you start belonging, and that's your new identity as well. It's like, yeah, I'm a gym guy, I'm a gym girl.
That's huge for sure. Like for an identity, like working in a gym now, I love the community of it. Like I just love teaching classes. I love coming in, having chats with everybody, and it's like you don't need to sit there and talk for ages, but it's that subconscious accountability, especially if you go at the same time every day, and it's like you see the same faces and you don't know each other, but like slowly after like the fifth or sixth time you've seen them, you give yourself a little nod, side eye, and then like a month later it's like, oh hi, like half wave, and then you slowly start, and then before you know it you're having chats with them and you know about their dog, and it's just brilliant. And that's what I'm trying to incorporate into online. So
what is it?
Yeah, I'm trying to create a community, kind of create a family, and that we're all supporting each other. We're all growing together. And like the whole concept of growth is that we are growing every day. We're getting older every day. We're growing regardless. And sometimes change can seem so intimidating because you're like, how am I going to get from A to B? Like, how am I going to do that? And the journey seems so long. And most people just don't start it because it's so intimidating. But that's what I'm like hoping to be here for, like not even as a coach, but as a partner to kind of take people through that journey. So literally take their hand up the first step, and a year down the line, they're either going to have achieved some personal growth or they're going to have grown anyways without even acknowledging it. And it's about, I always think like the biggest thing that kind of changed my mindset is that I always think, what's your tomorrow self going to thank you for? So instead of thinking about like, how am I going to feel in a week, or like starting Monday off and it's like, oh, I have 5 workouts to do this week. It's no, take the day and then see what your tomorrow self will thank you for. And that's all you have to worry about. You don't have to worry about yourself a year down the line. You don't have to worry about your responsibilities, how you're going to look, how you're going to feel in a week. It's just focusing on that small piece tomorrow, and it's breaking those chunks. And then slowly all these tomorrows are going to build up, and there's going to be a much bigger goal at the end of it.
What brought you to fitness and being a coach?
So, I've had a bit of a journey, I must say.
We still have 2 hours. So
where to start? So, I think I've never been sporty, ever. I was the person who would pretend to forget their tracksuit for PE in school. I would get the note for the signature. I would dread sports days. Like, I just felt so... It just wasn't me. It just like, I think, and it was also because I just lacked self-confidence. I just wasn't able to push myself out there and get involved. And I hated not being good at it. That like, it just kind of knocked me a lot. And then I slowly started to kind of go to the gym, which
what age?
This was like all through primary school. I hated sports days. And then secondary school, first, second, third year, forgetting the tracksuits. Then kind of fourth year was a really hard year for me. Third and fourth year is when, because I wasn't into sports, and I started going to the gym probably around first and second year. And
sorry, what's that age? I'm from a different country. I'm not
sorry, I was about 13, 14. Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I started going to the gym around then, doing a few classes. And of course, when you go into secondary school, especially in all girls secondary school, you start being very aware of your body image. And whether you like it or not, you're going to compare yourself to your peers. You're going to compare yourself in the gym. Like, I went and I was feeling so unfit, and I was like, am I ever going to be good at this? But if I'm not good at this, like, what am I going to do about my figure? What am I going to do about my, what's the word? Appearance. Mm-hmm. Appearance. And so I kind of started getting stressed about that, and I was always like, I just always loved food. I always loved shite, unfortunately. Like, loved sugar's biggest sweet tooth in the world. And I was like, I'm not ready to sacrifice that. But unfortunately, I got really in my head about it. So eating disorders started rolling in. So I was struggling with anorexia, bulimia, and then my parents were like, right, okay, you're not going to the gym anymore. So I started losing a lot of weight, and they let me go to the gym once or twice a week to do one class. And then I was completely taken out of it altogether, and they were like, you're not allowed to go. And at that stage, I started to enjoy the gym a little bit. I was like, it's kind of my outlet, but I think I was using it for all the wrong reasons. It was to go there to burn calories, to move my body so I can eat a bit more. But again, because like it was so restrictive for me, because I just loved food and I was craving it the whole time, and it was just complete restriction, and I was driving myself into the floor. I was lying to my parents about what I was eating in school, lying to my friends about what I was eating at home. And I feel like I just completely lost who I was. I completely lost it. And then unfortunately on, I think it was 2017, New Year's Eve, then it all just got too much and it was a suicide attempt. So I was in an induced coma for a week and woke up and I was like, oh my God. And I honestly, it was so out of body because I honestly didn't, like, yes, I was struggling with my mental health, but there was never diagnosed depression, never diagnosed anxiety. It was nothing like that. And it all just got so overwhelming. And it was just one night and it was an impulse but it was serious. And I woke up and both my parents were there and they were like, what the hell happened? Because no one anticipated it, not even myself, not even my friends. And it was just such a shock to the system that I was like, I don't even know who that was. I had no control. I had no control over my body, over my mind. And that was a huge wake-up call for me that I was like, okay, like, you have one life, you have one body, like, you are you. Stop trying to be other people. Like, I was always chasing someone else's physique, someone else's appearance, someone else's personality. Like, I was always following people. I was never my own person, ever. And that just got so exhausting and I just completely lost control of myself. And then, so that kind of started, I kind of started looking at my relationships and everything like that, but I'm not even going to be like, oh, that was a huge wake up call and I was like back on track. I wasn't. Like, it still took a while. It was still very raw that I was like, who am I? Because I felt like I was it felt like I was reborn in a way and I was trying to find out who I was and I still didn't know. But then I moved school, like kind of regenerated some relationships. Also during that time my family was going through like quite a bad divorce. So there was a lot of stress there, especially during my leaving cert, which it takes me on to. So I was kind of living in between friends' house. And then I started to find the gym as an outlet. So I actually started to enjoy it. And I was still very body conscious and very much had eating disorder behaviors, thoughts, like intrusive thoughts, all this up until very, very recently. And probably the last 6 months, and I just did have that epiphany. But in 6th year I did find the gym and I did enjoy it. Like, I wasn't doing it, I was doing it to look good, but I wasn't dreading going, and it did give me that kind of mental peace and mental clarity. And during the leaving cert, I think especially because I had so much outside stress with family while trying to maintain study, and like, I've always been a high achiever in academics, so I was putting a lot of pressure on myself there. But I didn't have a solid environment or kind of a solid social support system. And it was also just that feeling of guilt, like not being there for my younger sisters, not being the best that I can be. And I was giving like 20% to everything. And then the gym would just be like the one time that I wouldn't be thinking about anything. And then started to kind of bring my friends into it, and it kind of became like a fun thing. And then I realized I was like, okay, I actually like this. And then during my gap year, when I was trying to do the HPAT, I was like, okay, what am I actually interested in? And I went back to doing the classes in Westwood where I work now. And what you were saying earlier is that accountability piece. You'd go in and then they'd start to like side eye you. And it's like, oh, I've seen you here before. And it's like, I'm here and I'm so much healthier and happier. And I was kind of going at the same time, and you're starting to, like, the trainers were starting to know your name, and that was just huge for me. And I was like, okay, it's like a little community here, because like these are the environments that I didn't know myself for so many years. And I was like, okay, this is actually me. Like, I'm progressing in my goals and I'm doing this and I'm making myself known. I'm not part of a group anymore. And then I was like, okay, this is actually something that I'm genuinely enjoying. I'm not just following my friends. I'm not just following trends. I'm not doing something that someone's telling me to do. And I just found it all so interesting. And then I decided to do my personal training course. And that was with Elite Fitness Academy. And honestly, they were just brilliant. Like, they completely pushed me outside of my comfort zone. And I think that was a huge building block for me. It was like, I've never been put in that scenario that I had to stand up and teach a class. And there was no choice in the matter. But also, like, people are probably going to be shocked hearing this, that, like, I've always come across quite confident, like, but I just have never felt that way. Like, even I was actually talking to my mom and my aunties the other day, and I was like, I was such a shy kid, and they're like, no, you weren't. You were so outgoing. And I was like, really? Because as I remember myself, I was so in my shell, and like I was so shy and self-conscious, and I was just watching what everyone was thinking of me, and I wasn't able to be myself at all. I didn't even know who I was. But then that course was like, okay, like, I'm actually good at this. Like, this is actually something that I'm interested in and I'm good at. And I remember the trainers being like, because at this stage it was just after COVID and I was doing all the home workouts, which I loved. And one of the coaches was like, it's mad how like you haven't been like, because I was never a serious kind of gym trainer. Like, I would never go and do my own workout or understand how to do my own workout. I'd always go to the classes and train that way. But I was never actually kind of seeing progressive results. Mentally I was doing the world, but physically I wasn't really seeing that progression because I didn't understand training. And the trainers were like, you're really confident and like you're catching on really well to it, because the majority of the students there they'd been training before, they understood fitness, they were following it along. And I just fell in love with it. Like, I genuinely, after I finished my course and I went back to the gym, I was like, this is so much fun for my mental health, for my physical health, knowing what to do. And it just made everything click. Like, it was so much less complicated than people make it. And it was just that hack that it was just like, there's so much noise out there that I said, this is the best workout to do. This is the best way to do it. It's so simple. When you break it down, it's just so simple, and people complicate it so much. And then after that, I got a job in Westwood, and it's just kind of history from there. I just built with it, and classes and the atmosphere. Like, I go into work, and if I'm having a bad day, if I teach a class or if I help a client and I can see people's smiles, see people's progression, see people like start their journey and actually see results, like whether that is the smallest thing ever, that they're feeling they have a little bit more energy. Or like one of my clients recently said, she was like, I knew I had a session today with you, so I went out last night and instead of binge drinking, I had a glass of wine, and I was actually able to enjoy myself without the thought of binge drinking. And she was like, that was huge for me, because she was like, I never associated going out with just having a glass of wine. I'd always have to just take it too far, and just like having that accountability piece. But like, I would never take it too seriously. If she came in a bit hungover, we'd make the most of it. We'd laugh about it. And like, it was about pushing her that way, that I was like, oh, you're hungover again, are you? Like, taking the piss out of her. And then she was like, And then she was like, I wanted to prove a point that I like didn't do it. And she just felt so good about it. And it's just like those tiny things every day, that seeing people improve. Even like people coming up and thanking you for the class after, like saying it was really good, saying it was really enjoyable, coming in and knowing your name. And it is like, you build a full family there, like it's a full community, and it's so special. And that's what I really want to take with me online, to make it even more individual. Like, I want to see people's journeys from start, and I don't really want it to ever finish, but you know, like, I want to start them. I want to see their progression. I want to actually let them acknowledge their growth, like see their like accountability measures. So like, I don't really believe in scale victories and things like that, but it's just acknowledging their milestones, because sometimes it is hard to do it in a commercial gym. Like, yeah, you see them and yeah, you see their progress and things like that, but it's getting down to the emotional side and the mental side. And that's what I just want to bring with me, like that environment and that energy and that kind of family and community. So yeah, a lot there.
So I have actually a few comments, and thank you for sharing that very touching story of the past, going through the struggle. You know, I heard before that one of the best teachers have very rocky beginning. So for anyone who will eventually do great things and become a mentor and coach, they have hard starts. And that creates character.
Yeah.
Without that, you don't have it. You don't have this urgency where you were just so close from ending your life, for example, or having such a difficult situation when you have that strong desire. And that, you know, even recently I was listening to a podcast. There was a bit interview from 80s, 90s about Schwarzenegger, and they asked him what makes a champion. And he said, well, when you have a comfortable life and you're happy, it makes a very balanced person, but it doesn't make a champion of the world. It is about the hard times. Same with Mike Tyson. His son, he was like, I would like to do boxing. He's like, no, you don't have a lifestyle that you won't be champion. You will be working with people who are surviving and who will fight to kill you.
Yeah.
You're too comfortable for that. You don't have the drive.
Yeah.
You are not Mike Tyson. You are Mike Tyson's son.
Yeah.
You don't have to do this.
Yeah.
And so, coming back to this tough life, and I consider myself having tough life as well, and childhood especially. So now I'm kind of enjoying it. It's a great process.
Yeah, that's
and just
it.
yesterday I turned 42 actually. And,
oh, happy birthday.
So, thank you. And how it all moves. There are these chapters. Sometimes you don't know what you're gonna do in the next 10 years.
Yeah.
It's almost like we go through these cycles, and we don't need to know. We don't need to go into tarot cards right now. Hey, what's there for me? It's like, be patient, send intentions, make plans, and sail along, do a few pedal strokes, and
that's it though. Like I've no regrets, as bad as it sounds. It's like I probably still wouldn't know who I am if I didn't find fitness, if I didn't go through what I've gone through. Like I still would probably be that sheep, be that person who's chasing the next thing or chasing the next thing that someone else has done. And like now I'm just like completely my own person, and it's like it's just so freeing. It's like,
so is exercising and strengthening your body and mind is empowering.
Oh, it's so empowering. Yeah.
Now
That's
I have
word.
a question on that topic actually. What do you think caused you to be in that state of mind where you don't have control of your mind and body, when things are just constantly comparing yourself to others? I know you're young back then, and maybe just you reflecting now, like, what do you think caused it, and how would you now, with your mindset, with your level, how would you prevent it to be in that? What would you do now? Give yourself advice for that 13 years old girl.
I love that question. So I think this comes back to occupational therapy as well, which is what I was saying. It all just makes sense. It all just clicks that I was meant to do it. Occupational therapy as well. It's about finding meaning in your life. So I had no meaning. I had nothing that was mine. Like I woke up every day and I was told that I was going to school, and I was told that I was doing PE or I was doing some sports after school. And I was told I was going home and doing my homework. I was told that I was eating for dinner. I was told what time I was going to bed at. I didn't have any interest in sports. I had no interest in any of the activities I was doing. Like I didn't even have any interest in like going out with friends, because I was just so in my head about what people thought of me that I didn't care about anything else. I had no internal meaning for my life. So I was completely lost. Like I would have nothing that I was looking forward to. I wasn't able to be, the only way I can put it is that I was existing. Like I wasn't living. Like I had,
so and like no control over, like everything was given to you, do this, do that, do that. Yeah, that's
it. But even like the times that I did have control over what I was doing, it just didn't mean anything to me. And I think that's a lot. It's seen a lot in the world today, because everyone's kind of high achievers now, and it's all about your job and how much money you're making and how you're achieving and this and that. And it's like, is that actually meaningful for you? And it's also the biggest reason why people start these fitness journeys or these 12-week shred programs, and they think they have this goal in mind, but it's actually not what they want or why they want it. And it's, if you figure out the reason why you want something, you are so much more likely to achieve it, because you always have that intrinsic reason and motivation for it. And I think now, I actually just had a huge epiphany, to be honest, and I just completely found peace with myself. And don't get me wrong, therapy is great and it works for people. It just never worked for me. It didn't. And like, I was able to come to peace with that, and like peace with what happened to me. And don't get me wrong, it still comes up and it's still an emotional thing to think about and talk about, but I'm so at peace with it now that I can talk about it. And like I did that myself, and that was huge for me. And I did that.
Take responsibility for your actions.
That's it. And that's kind of how I found myself, and that's how I realized who I was. And like I realized I was a lot stronger than I thought I was. And it was about finding things that were meaningful for me. So fitness was meaningful for me. And to be honest with you, the sole reason it was meaningful for me at the very beginning was complete aesthetic. And it was complete vanity and like hands up, I'll say it. And that's what led me to so many issues and conditions and getting overwhelmed and find like eating disorders and behaviors, and like it was vanity and it was just trying to look good. And now it's just so much more than that. Like it's just given me so much meaning in life. And the biggest thing for me, and like the biggest thing that I find meaning in, it's why I did occupational therapy, and it's why I want to incorporate occupational therapy into something that I actually care about, is seeing other people thrive and grow and watching them have that realization of what they want and why they want it. And it's like, oh shit, okay, that's why I want a six pack. It's because like I want to, like there's always a deeper reason for why someone wants something, and it's about finding that. And it's like so cool to see people come out the other side and be so much mentally stronger and resilient, and also achieve their physical goals alongside it. And sometimes their physical goals come and their mental goals come, but typically when they realize mentally why they want something, their physical goals appear because it's not what they actually wanted. They're just happier inside their head and they appear happier on the outside therefore. And it's a lot easier to achieve something if you're kind of in the mental state and mental readiness to do it. So again, it's like breaking people down to realize how ready they are, why they want it, and how they're going to achieve it, and is it realistic as well. Because the biggest thing that I've seen is setting these unrealistic goals, trying to achieve them, and then you're shot back and your confidence, which once was low, is now even lower. And then it's taking, again, a whole process to start it off, where it's about breaking down that big chunk. And it's just literally taking day by day, step by step. Like you're even saying, in 10 years' time, you don't know where you're going to be. I don't even want to think about that, because it's just, yeah, exactly.
But you will arrive somewhere, so you better have a good plan. It's like buying a ticket. You want to arrive, buying flight ticket to get somewhere. Yeah. You don't just buy a ticket. You buy a ticket to arrive somewhere.
Yeah.
So you expect to arrive somewhere. So the 10 years from now will arrive.
That's
and
it.
I would recommend anyone just to make plans what you want to do with your life, who we want to be surrounded with. But you were talking about the past, why you started exercising. For me as well, it was actually to empower myself, because I had lack of confidence. I was always having like underlying anxiety about something's wrong. And I grew up in a very sort of a stressful environment where I always felt the world was hostile, and I have to fight the world to find my safety and peace. So I had to become tougher. So martial arts and gym, surrounding yourself with other tough guys, because for me that was my own tribe of protection. So it's like you against the environment, you against the other people, and then you just sort of shaping yourself and realize who you want to be. And you're watching movies with these superheroes, all of them are muscular big guys who can fight. So it's like, okay, well, these guys are winning in the movies, so you have to become a badass. For a guy like me, I thought that was the best way to become sort of like dangerous, so I can actually protect myself, because the world is dangerous, and if you live in that environment, you believe everything, you perceive it, everything is real, the stress is real, you're living the situation to situation, so alive. But then you realize as you go through the years and things starting to be more comfortable, you kind of start to losing up the edge, and you start to change your body. It's like, oh, well, I do more cardio, I don't do enough weight. But then I look in the mirror, it's like, who's this skinny guy? This is not the guy I remember from 10, 15 years ago. And you start to realize, even as you are, let's say 25, and you lost, 7-8 kilos muscle mass, that actually who you want to be, because there will be another 5 years, 10 years from now. How would you want to present yourself in 5-10 years from now? And I mean, for guys especially, I can relate, it takes 2 years to build muscles back. So we go, okay, so now I learned that it takes a certain amount of work. I don't have to overdo it, but I have to show up. I have to show up once or twice a week for weightlifting. I have to eat a certain amount of protein, certain amount of calories. and I'll have it.
Yeah.
So if you break it down from that point of view, it's not such hard work. It's not.
That's it. People complicate it so much.
Compound
and it's
effect. Compound effect.
Yeah, but it's also figuring out why you want something, because once you, like, that's the hardest part of it, figuring out why you want something. And then, because you can say what you want. Everyone wants six pack. Everyone wants abs. Everyone wants a big bum. Everyone wants this and that. And like, if you really, really want it, you can get it. But why do you want it? Because if people who really, really, really want it will get it because they have a reason for it. But it's very easy to say that you want a six pack. And it's not that, like, yes, it's difficult to get it because it's a lot of sacrifices to make. But if you're willing to make them for an actual reason, you will do that. But like, there's no need to have this aesthetic look. Whereas after you have your six pack, you're probably still not going to be happy because there's another reason deep down why you want. And like, these superficial goals, they're achievable, but they're not always like the end goal. They're not always going to make you happy. They're not always going to give you what you think that they're going to give you. And before wasting a year of your time getting a six pack, figuring out, will you actually be happy once you have it? And it's saving people a lot of time. And like, I know I'm still young, but I think it's been like 10 years now already that I've been on like so many different fitness journeys and diets and yo-yo exercising, yo-yo dieting, and like having all these different beliefs. And I've trialed and tested everything, and I found it. Like, I found the solution, and it's inside. Like, it's you. It's like, you're the only one that's going to make the change. And like, there's so many coaches out there that don't really have the qualifications or the personal experiences, and like it's there's a difference between being like educated and being able to apply it and being personable. And like, one of the biggest things as well is that like, life doesn't have to be that serious. And if it is that serious, you're going to drive yourself into the floor. Like, if you're waking up every day and there's something that's bad and boring, and something that I used to do all the time, and I've started to notice it in a lot of other people now, is anytime I was uncomfortable, I'd complain about something. So like, if there was like an awkward silence, I'd be like, oh, I'm so cold, or oh, I'm starving, or like, and it was just such an immediate response. It was bizarre. And I'm starting to realize it now. My younger sister does it. Yeah. And it was just so negative. And it's like, it's so down to your mindset, what you're going to get out of life. Like,
how you present yourself as well.
Yeah. Like, I'm in like probably the best shape I've ever been in. And I've never been eating more. Like, I've actually never been happier. I've never had better relationships. Like, I've more opportunities coming because I'm open to it, and I'm like happier, and I'm seeing the brighter side of things instead of looking down a big, deep, dark hole over everything. Like, everything used to be so bad. I actually can't get over it. I'd wake up in the morning and the first thing I would do is let out a big like moan. Be like, oh, okay, another day. Oh, I have to wake up. Oh, I have to do this. Oh, I have to go to the gym. Whereas now it's like, I'm able to go to the gym. And especially being an occupational therapist and working with children with disability, working with people post-stroke, spinal cord injuries, older adults, like, it gives you a massive smack in the face. Like, you're lucky that we're able to exercise. Like, we're so fortunate to have that opportunity to be able to move our bodies, to be able to shape our bodies, to be able to fuel our bodies and do certain training to achieve certain results. And it's like about shifting people's mindset and making them realize how fortunate it is. And it's honestly, it's like, you can't pay for it, but it is the most powerful thing in the world about having a positive mindset in life. Like, there's so much more out there if you just open your eyes. Like, everything used to be so cynical, and like, I actually see the most negative person. Like, I honestly didn't smile. It was just mad. And I wish I remembered the day that I woke up and it all just flipped. I know it was obviously over a process of time and everything like that, but it's just the best thing ever. It's just an epiphany that it's just, there is something good in every day. And even like, when I did 4 years of my college degree, and my schedule every day was, I would wake up at 5:30 and I would go to the gym at 6 until 7:30. Then I would go I traveled to placement, be in placement from 8:30 until 5. That'd be working unpaid in hospitals. Or if I wasn't in the hospitals, I'd be going into St. James's Hospital, which is about a 2-hour one-way trip. Then I'd make my way back to work from 5 o'clock until 10:30, get home for 11:15, and repeat that 5 days a week.
Wow, that's hard.
And like,
so that's where you sacrifice your comfort for the future self, because you study, you work, and you work out. So you do 3 things which most people don't do. You know?
Like that, I've always been a hard worker, and like the first 2 years of doing that, I was like feeling really sorry for myself, and I was like, why do I have to do this, and why, like, some people don't have to work, and like I was like, what am I complaining about? Like, I'm lucky that I can hold down a job. I'm lucky that I can exercise. I'm so fortunate that I have the opportunity to have such a good education. But again, in that moment in time, it's really hard to see that, because you're working yourself into the ground, and it was exhausting, don't get me wrong. But then the next, like, kind of the last 2 years of it, it was still hard, and the people close to me will know it was hard. But I used to find joy in small things. So I'd be like, okay, well, after I'm done the gym, before I start placement, I get a coffee and I'm going to put caramel into it, and it's going to be the best thing ever. And it was like,
your wins, as you call it in your Instagram, your win of the day.
That's it. It's small wins every day. And I think that is what slowly shifted my mindset. So it's like poking at it every day.
Looking forward to something that will lift you up.
That's a consistency.
Reward.
Yeah. And like, consistency doesn't have to be fitness. It doesn't have to be like, it doesn't have to be working out every day. It doesn't have to be eating the same foods every day. It's consistency in looking for those small things every day that you can do right. So celebrating those small wins every day consistently will slowly start to shift your mindset to a more positive one. Like, after a really shit day, if you look back and you're like, okay, did anything go right? It's like, you might have had, like, you could have even had a nice cold glass of water, and it would have been a win. Do you know what I mean? And then every day you're seeing something small in a really negative day. Then there's some days you have bigger wins, and that's brilliant. But then the most important thing, and it's about that consistency, is about looking at the really dark days and finding that something that's bright, and that's a consistency thing that you do every day. And even on the really good days, celebrating the small wins as well. So like, on a really good day, if you went to Disneyland, blah, 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 you could think about like the really nice donut that you had, or like, it's just small things, and that trains you as well to look at the smaller things in the bad days. Because it's not going to be a bad day at Disneyland, but if it's a really bad day at home, if you looked at the smaller things in Disneyland, you'll be looking at the smaller things in the darker days.
Yeah. Actually, when you were talking about, not smiling or anything like that, that was me. I used to be so serious as well and negative myself, even when I came to Ireland, and, different things. But I remember I was going through this transformation, and it was 2005. I was working in a Dundrum shopping center. I was walking the car park and, helping people find their cars. That was my first job. Like, zero responsibility job.
Wow.
You just have to show up and be there.
Yeah.
But
I didn't even know that was a job.
Yeah. Now, like, back then there's a lot of staff. Now there's almost like nobody, because people don't get lost there anymore because they know it. But anyway, I realized a friend of mine gave me a book called The Way to Absolute. It was from Czech author, and it was kind of spiritual book, but it was written very simply, like for a child. And I realized, but there was a lot of examples like negativity, positivity, the mindset. And I actually came to realization how negative I was. That actually most of thoughts in my head are negative. This is wrong, that's wrong, this is wrong. Negativity. And I realized, wow, I'm a negative person.
Yeah.
And that made me realize that I can also start changing it. And I started reading books about positive affirmations. And because self-talk. And I was realizing, because I was walking so much on the car park without communication with others, it was all in my head. I'm thinking to myself this and that. And I realized, okay, you can actually even break the pattern of being in a negative wave by saying, okay, every day I'm doing better and better. Or you pick a couple of affirmations. You start yourself sort of reprogramming, because there's synaptic connections in the brain as you create new patterns. So I already have these negative patterns really, really
ingrained,
strongly ingrained, established. So I'm just rewriting it with the positive stuff. And before you realize, actually, you know what? I don't have so many negative thoughts.
Yeah.
I'm shifting. But then you realize it's a whole ecosystem of your body as your unique self, which is composed of cells, bacteria, and different levels. You have this mental, emotional, physical, spiritual aspect to yourself, the energetic aspect of yourself, your vitality. So let's say if you constantly stressed out, you will possibly have a harder time to fall asleep. Maybe you'll be more inclined to addictions, which will lead to, let's say, less sleep that you should do. So you'll be exhausted. So therefore your mental state is even worse. Then your immune system, your mood, your energy is down. So you're constantly exhausted. You try to stimulate yourself with caffeine, with sugar, with processed foods. And you realize you're kind of dragging yourself through your life, through your 20s, and you're realizing, I'm actually slowly dying. This is not feeling good.
Yeah.
That made me realize responsibility for myself, started to read more about health, energy, and then eventually I became a coach as well. I actually became a coach when I was 30, but I always have an inclination to coach my friends. Let's say when I was doing martial arts, even as a 15 years old, I would actually coach my friends what I learned from the training. So I always have that sort of ability to be able to translate knowledge to others, and I enjoyed it. Or even as a 15 years old, staying at a bus stop, waiting for the bus, old people used to talk to me, random old people. And even now, like, old people love talking to me. I always find it kind of fascinating, but I never had an issue or being shy. And old people are really nice to talk to because you learn from them.
They're so wise. Like, it's mad that you say that because I went into occupational therapy, obviously wanting to work with children, and I hated working with children. Sorry. But the elderly people, oh my God, I get on with that population unbelievably well. Like, we just, I don't know what it was, like we just gel. And even in the gym now, it's like, I just seem to just gravitate towards the older population, and I just love talking to them, and they're just so wise. And what you were saying there as well about like all these confounding factors, it's like, what you're eating, your stress, your sleep, your like, there's so many different aspects that people don't consider. It's like, it's your full body, it's your biopsychosocial model that you're looking at. You're looking at your spiritual health, your psychological health, your mental health, your physical health, and how they are all so interlinked. Yes, they're separate concepts that like need to be addressed, but like they're all so interlinked. And like someone who wants to lose weight and they're doing all the right things with eating and exercising, it's like, how's your stress? How's your sleep? Because like so many people don't even consider that. It's like, but I'm in a calorie deficit and I'm exercising loads.
More
and it's
stress,
like,
by the way.
Yeah.
More stress being calorie deficit.
That's it. It's you're
starving,
putting your body
basically
on more stress. You're like, you're reducing your sleep. You're starving your body. And it's like, people just go about it in the worst ways possible. And that's, sorry, not the worst ways possible, but that's my whole concept, is that I want to get down to why and make people realize why they want something and why they're not achieving it. So they might think that it's completely something different. Like even one of my clients now, we're working on breaking the kind of the restrict binge purge cycle. And she was saying, I was talking to her about mental restriction. And so I was like, restriction isn't just physical, that you're restricting yourself eating that food. Mentally, if you wake up that morning and say, okay, I'm only allowed to have this for breakfast, lunch and dinner, that's mental restriction, that's exhaustion. So your body's restricted, your mind is restricted. And that again encourages a binge because you're looking for that comfort. Not only is it that your body's hungry, it's that your mental is looking for that bit of comfort and that outlet because it's been restricted for so long in so many different ways. It's like, I'm not allowed to have that. Yes, you're physically restricting it, but you're training your mind that that's a bad food and that's a bad thing to do. Like, you have to do 10,000 steps before you have dinner. That's restriction because you're forcing your body to do something that it doesn't always want to do. And like, that was a huge thing for her, that she was like, I didn't even think about mental restriction. She was like,
so what would you suggest for them to, how would they approach it then? So
with her, we're doing kind of habit checkers every day. So it's, we're like challenging. So she's very, very plain diet and the only foods that are allowed, and there's a lot of restricted foods. So what we're working on is kind of stripping away the mental restriction first, so keeping her safe within her allowed foods, but we're kind of chipping away at her mental restriction. So this habit checker every day, and it's like, don't wake up and set yourself these restrictions in the morning. Wake up, practice meditation, practice gratitude, And then we're slowly trying to retrain the mind as well that food is kind of a friend. Food is fuel, and it's not scary. Like, we wouldn't be alive without food.
Of course.
It's scary to not have it. Like, that's what's scary. Famine is scary. Like, not having food is scary, and it's about retraining her mind. It's all about bringing it back to the mindset, and it's small steps every day. I'm not jumping in there being like, you're going to start eating your fear foods, you're going to not restrict, you're not doing 10,000 steps every day. We also changed her exercise program. So she used to feel like she needed to go to the gym, and she needed to go to the gym in order to be allowed to eat. And as a coach, I kind of positioned myself as a partner as well. I was like, I'm going to take her hand. I'm able to relate to clients as well on a lot of personal experience. And having that piece as well was just really comforting for her, that she's not alone in it. And having that accountability piece for her as well, that I made her feel kind of safe, that she doesn't have to go to the gym right now. Right now, it's about mentally training herself back. So we're focusing on yoga flows and healing yoga and getting steps in, listening to podcasts that she enjoys, but there's no pressure on it. We're doing like deep core work. So we're kind of building her pelvic floor, her deep core tissue. So when we do jump back into weight training, when we do jump back into exercise, when she's ready, she's going to have that solid foundation. So we are building small steps, but we're doing it in such a less intimidating way. And she has made unbelievable progress in 3 weeks. She hasn't purged in 2 weeks now, which is
what
the longest.
What do you mean by purged?
So bulimia is by making yourself get sick. Yeah.
Puking? Okay, sorry.
Yeah. And that's the longest she's gone in 3 years, I think.
So it's helping her mental state more than just necessarily just.
Yeah, it's even the awareness. Like, she didn't know that she was mentally restricting. Like, she was exhausted as enough physically because she wasn't letting herself eat certain things, or she wasn't fueling her body. So her body was exhausted. She was over exercising, under fueling, and she was physically exhausted. But she didn't realize how mentally exhausted she was as well. She couldn't go out with friends. She couldn't think about anything else. Food was her entire thought process. And she has come back to me and said, like, there's things that I haven't even noticed. Like, I haven't even noticed that she got a new shed like a year ago. She's like, I didn't even notice that because I'm just like, so everything in my head is food. Like, she's left her job and she left her job and she just had no idea where she wanted to go with her career. She's like, now I can actually start thinking about my career. She's like, I actually have space in my head to think. She's like, I didn't know how much restriction, how much mental pressure I was putting on myself. I just thought it was all physical. And it's just, it's completely changed. Like, it's just awareness and things like that. The mind, the body, and spirituality just works together so much. It's like you can't have one without the other. And some people don't realize that. And I just think it's so important to look at the person as a whole. And everyone's going to have different triggers. Like, yes, anorexia is anorexia, bulimia is bulimia, but no case is the same. None. And I think eating disorders as well are just one of the most disabling diseases because it's so difficult for other people to understand, for other people to catch, and it's so difficult for other people to help. Because, like, there's coaches, there's mentors, there's partners, there's people to help you through it all, but at the end of the day, the only person that's going to stop themselves getting sick, that's going to allow themselves to start eating, is you. And that's so difficult. There is no antidepressants for bulimia. There's no anti-anxieties for anorexia. There's no headache tablets. There's no nothing. And it's so difficult for people to help because there's so much denial around it as well. So yeah, eating disorders are a big thing from personal experience for sure. And big things that, like, I would just love to help people with because I've seen it all. I've been through it all. And so have people around me trying to help me. And I just, like, shut them off. But now I kind of do understand more how to approach it, but it's still very, very difficult because each person is so different how they respond to things.
You know, I finished a shamanic course around a year ago, and it was actually traditional Irish shamanism for healing and sound vibration therapy. And it was about, let's say, if somebody has trauma, and trust me, all the healers came through really hard traumas as well, because that's how they have the need, the desire to be able to help.
The meaning in life.
That's and as well. So a lot of healers were wounded first And there in those, and this is ancient traditions, this is thousands of years old traditions with drumming, with Tibetan bowls, with tuning forks, with all sorts of, smudging with the sage, and all of those rituals where you apply intention, change of brainwaves, so state of brain states, and positive affirmation, positive reinforcement, and kind of like maybe kind of going into trauma and kind of like releasing it consciously, and then sort of together synergistically doing it with the sound therapy, sound vibration therapy.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
And it was interesting, actually. I will just say one story of a good friend of mine who came, and when I finished my course, I was like, Peter, I will show you the technique, like how it all works, because it's very relaxing, actually. Even if you have no expectations, you will feel like you start getting deep into your meditate. It's very powerful.
Yeah.
I did this with my teacher, and as a private session, going through some childhood trauma, and it was so powerful. You can't describe it to someone, but I could feel my body was vibrating, and you could feel in your energetic field how the teacher was sort of going through different instruments, different tools through my energetic field. But this guy came to me around a year ago, actually, and he said what happens when he had almost an accident. He had micro sleep in the sleep while he was driving car, and he almost crashed. So he just kind of realized he fell asleep, and he said he wasn't on his own, so he was responsible for a few people as well. And from then on, he had situations where if he naps in a car during the work break, he would just wake up in shock that he's going to crash in a car.
Response.
So it's a really traumatic response. And it's like, okay, let's go to that situation. So I start drumming and kind of bringing him with a guided meditation down into that state. So we're going to go to the situation where it happened, and there will be part of you, part of your soul frozen in a time and space. And you're just going to find it. It's very sort of, you imagine, you try to just kind of mentally kind of connect. So it's like you're going to imagine that there's a piece of you, it could be your younger self, could be you, and just like invite that self. It's safe to come back, and you're just going to hug it back in. Sort of like you visualize that piece that is missing from you, that is causing you the trauma, you invite it back. And it's especially with drumming, you bring the brainwaves to theta brainwaves, which even psychotherapy uses these ancient tools with some kind of tools to bring the brainwaves to relax, and then use the suggestions and so on. So we did that. And I had no other expectation than it will work, because in my mindset I was like, yeah, that'll work, because it's like energetic trauma. We energetically try to fix it, and he will send intentions as well. And then we did all the sort of tuning forks, crystals, every tool that I had, I used it just to kind of reinforce that ritual. And then a few months, nothing. He doesn't text me, I don't text him. Then like 4 months later, and he's like, I didn't want to say it too early, because, what if it comes back? But he's like, I never had it since.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, okay.
Yeah. There's so many things like that are coming out. They're so interesting. There's so many different forms of healing. And again, the non-pharmacological ways, they're all coming out. So we're moving from that medical model that
healing,
medication doesn't fix everything. It really doesn't. But yeah, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, I was actually quite. It felt good. It felt good. So it's interesting how it all works, but how it all comes to the psychology, comes to the self-care, and also like everybody has some trauma. Except, and different people deal with stress different way. Yeah. So it's really, there could be a situation when you go like, oh, not a big deal, I'm totally fine. The next person will have a total stress out of it. Yeah,
that's it. And that's it. Like, everyone's just so different, and it's about approaching everybody so differently. And it's like, some people, exactly what you were saying, will have like quite traumatic past experiences. Others might not, but also might be reacting worse to it. And it's about how do you approach that, and how do you work with each individual. And again, like, I think change can be so intimidating to do by yourself, especially like if you are feeling lost, or you're feeling like internal pain or internal trauma. And like, that's what I really want to present myself as, is that partner, just to like help you take that first step. And like, yes, I'm going to be a coach and a mentor, and like I know how to coach, and like I'm seeing results with in-person clients, but I really just want to help people who are just craving that meaning in their life, and they just don't know where to find it, and they don't know where to start or how to start, and just help them make that first step. And it's just, I think as coaches, and you're probably the same, it's like even that piece, like it just makes you feel so good helping other people.
That's how you make yourself happier, because there's a dopamine release from the satisfaction. I think, and I heard this long time ago from some kind of spiritual guru. There was that humans needs expansion. We cannot just be happy where we are. We have to move forward. We have to somehow expand.
Yeah.
We need next bigger goal, because in the process of reaching these goals, there's this satisfaction. So you have dopamine. Like, let's say you're starting your day, you make a list what needs to be done today. You know, it's okay, I need to do this. This is the highest priority, and this is the less priority. And once you start ticking the boxes, you go like, oh yeah, I've done it.
Yeah.
You reach the list, like, I'm satisfied. You know?
I was saying that actually in one of my videos recently. It's like I do this every day. Even if you're having like a really off day, like if you are feeling hungover, or if you're just wrecked, or make yourself a list of the smallest tasks. Literally, like if I'm having a bad day, like if I went out, or after like my graduation, say, we went out and we had a few drinks, and the next day I was like, okay, I'm not going to get done today what I was hoping to, but what I'm going to do is make myself a list. And it was have a shower, eat some breakfast that's moderately healthy. Yeah. And then I was ticking the boxes. I was like, okay, I've got this. And then that self-satisfaction, and that like, it just lifted my mood, and I was able to get up and actually get out and go on a walk and do something productive for myself. And it's about satisfying yourself. Like, no one's like, yes, people can help you progress and move on, but like no one is going to actually physically pick you up and make you go out and exercise. No one's going to force food down your mouth. No one cares that much. Do you know what I mean? Like, no one cares as much about you as you do. Yeah. And you need to make those first steps. But again, some people just need that little push and that little direction.
Inspiration, sometimes even seeing your post, your happy stories on Instagram.
Yeah.
And even I think that we can uplift. We have this responsibility that even through social media, people are watching our content. And so let's say, if you can inspire someone out of these hundreds of people who can check your story, go like, oh yeah. You know, like we are kind of lucky that we have opportunity to be in connection with other interesting people who bring some different ideas, different routines, different thinking to our lives. And you go like, oh, you know, and we got inspired. I'm a person who, if I'm ready, and let's say a few times happened to me, I was into hiking, but then I'm walking through a really long hike. I'm coming back. There's a guy on a mountain bike just cruising around. And I'm like, I'm going to get bike. Yeah. And next thing, I'm a biker for like 5 years. Like really got into it. Even before the mountain bike, I was in Bundoran, and there was some group kayaking, sea kayaking. I'm like, I'm going to get kayak. So I'm easily to be if I see something, and I was saying it in the other podcast previously, I was exactly around 2011 summer in Lake Garda, and it was after I've done the Wicklow way on a bike, big achievement, big challenge, but I really flared up my knee over there. But I see this guy over there in amazing shape. I'm like, I want to look like that. So just the fact that we do what we do, we can inspire people. And just by living it with passion, being sort of uncompromising yourself, not being judgmental as much to yourself. And even if we are not perfect, accept the fact that you're in a process. You're not finished product.
Oh, huge!
You didn't come here as a perfect human specimen. You know, many of us are messed up. We have to unlearn a lot, fix a lot of stuff through our 20s, 30s.
But it's also about embracing those imperfections. Like, like everyone's messed up, everyone's weird, and
In a
it's
certain
like
way, yeah. Some people are too OCD, like they are too perfect. It's like, hey, this knife has to be like straight.
I'm kind of like that, but
There's a bit of dirt over here. Let's paint the table.
Oh my god! Now I fully want to paint the table.
And many times we like pointing out imperfections in the people around us.
That's it, yeah.
And not actually necessarily realizing we are not perfect, so we shouldn't show fingers all the time.
That's
like,
it.
There's something wrong with you,
but it's about making everything just, honestly, like just making things enjoyable. Like I'm really trying at the moment just to like take a step back at least once a day and just be like, okay, this is great. Like especially even when I used to go, like I used to just live my life driving myself into the ground during the week, so I'd get the weekend and I earned the weekend, I deserved it, and then I could actually enjoy it. But by the time it came around, I was too exhausted, I wasn't able to enjoy it, and also I had these expectations that it was going to be a great weekend, and then if I didn't fulfill those expectations, I felt shite, and I was disappointed. And it's like, stop having expectations, have goals, have discipline, have milestones, consistency, and you're going to exceed your expectations. Like there's easy ways to go about it, but if you go into something and have these really high expectations, you're going to be disappointed majority of the time. But if you just let yourself grow, let yourself be happy and actually appreciate the moment, like these expectations will naturally be fulfilled. Instead of going in with them, just let them happen. Do you know what I mean? Like that's just huge for me, that I set these, like I was just always disappointed, or I'd always like be pushing myself so hard, like doing so many workouts because I knew I had to take a few rest days in the weekends, and then I'd get there, I'd be so tired, had this expectation that it was going to be brilliant and I was going to be in fantastic mood, and then you feel even worse when you're not in a good mood because you expect to be in a good mood. It's just giving yourself that break, and taking the pressure off. But yeah, that was a huge one for me.
With the, let's say in relationships with partners, I think it's important to know, like when we are in the mood to do action, let's say go for a hiking, cycling trip, or if we feel a bit tired, maybe one of us had a really hard week, so be just able to, okay, today we're just gonna eat nicely, spoil ourselves a little bit, watch a bunch of movies, we're gonna be lazy, just laying down in a sofa or in a bed for hours and just kind of using that weekend to recover the energy, so I can teach, I don't know, another, 30 sessions in a week, you know, or like clients and classes takes lots of mental energy. So I used to have high expectations as well, that when I'm off, and I actually work 7 days a week, even if it's just the morning, but I still have to wake up and I still have to go there. So sometimes when I have a lazy day, I just want to switch off, watch movies, quite enjoy it. Before I used to stress myself out as well. Now I'm just so much more easygoing that, I'm 42 now. Maybe just appreciate also that sometimes you have to let the body and mind recover, nurture yourself, and actually be easygoing. Yeah. And sometimes when you feel like go for that action, go for extra hike, do the cycling trip, but you have to understand how hard was your week. How is your energy levels? Are you getting headaches all the time? Are you tired all the time? Yeah. And
it comes back to that mental restriction piece again. It's feeling that like sense of guilt that like I would feel if I was taking a rest day and I was sitting down to watch a movie, I'd feel guilty about it. So I'm not really taking a rest day, because I might as well just get up and go to the gym for an hour instead of sitting there for 12 hours and feeling guilty about not going. And that's what I would do. I would tell myself I'm taking a rest day. And if I tried to sit on the couch, I'd be half a movie through and I'd be like, right, okay, I need to go do my steps. I need to go to the gym. I need to do this. I need to do that. And then I'd be like, okay, right now I'll just finish the movie. Then after the movie, right, I need to get up and I need to do that. Like, and then I'd start another movie and then I'd feel guilty about it. And it's just like, there was just no point in it, because my mind actually wasn't recovering, because I was mentally restricting myself. And I was completely letting guilt take over and exhausting myself out even more, like than by physical exertion, by sitting there and feeling guilty about it for 10 hours and just saying I was going to get up after every movie, instead of just enjoying it. And I probably didn't even remember what was in the movies. Like that lady that I'm working with didn't even realize her shed was put in because she was too caught up in her own head and own thoughts. And it's so nice to just like relax. Like when I'm working hard, when I have the energy to work hard, and I know that I'm disciplined and I know I'm capable. Like also, I'm not perfect. Like I still do have days where I'm like, even this morning when I went to the gym, I wasn't feeling it at all, and I was like, okay, I was like, this isn't ideal. And then I tried to go on the Stairmaster, lasted 3 minutes, and I was like, right, I'll go on the treadmill and do a light walk. Yeah. Whereas before, that would ruin my whole day. Like that would be like, I'd be like, now my fitness level's in the bin, and like, and I'd like catastrophize everything, ruin my whole day for everyone around me as well. Like it was just insane. The amount of more time I have now that I'm not negatively thinking and getting so caught up in everything that's going wrong with my day, instead of just like, I think the biggest thing that I live by is controlling the controllable. Like there's just, it waste so much time trying to control things that are out of your control.
It's just boring. It's just, and you can't actually do anything about it.
It's just anxiety causing. Yeah. And whereas you have things that are in front of you that you can't control. So if you control them, then the thing that you're trying to control probably won't happen.
Yeah.
So
I think for many people it is just, I think a bit of activity, even just a brisk walk for 10 minutes can change the states of their mind. I find it actually, even though I'm with clients, a lot of times I don't move much. I'm standing around and then I sit down into my car, I drive half an hour coming back home, let's say. So sometimes even I lack that activity where it gets me heart rate up. But even if I'm exhausted and I start working out, I feel good. So many times it's the mental exhaustion and also lack of my energy flowing freely in the body. So for me, I realize I'm sensitive to, if I don't have enough glycogen or glucose, I feel if I don't have enough carbohydrates, my mood goes down, my energy goes down. My body needs it. Actually, it needs it.
Everyone's body needs it.
You know, so for me, if I actually neglect eating, I pay for it with the mood and energy level, and eventually it crashes and my mood is low. And then also when I don't move enough, I wouldn't be, even when I have to edit video or something, 2 hours max. I don't even enjoy, let's say, playing computer games for too long. I play 1 hour, I get bored, I have enough of sitting. Yeah. I just like to move a little bit as well. It lifts my energy up. But there was another cool idea. Well, you know, the high achievers have this sort of perfectionist, always not happy, never good enough drive. And it's like a default program in our psyche where we are driven, and that's stressful. There was a really cool statement from Elon Musk. He said, happiness is not on his priority list. He doesn't live to be happy. He lives to achieve great things. And that's different mindset. So happiness, feeling happy, that's not in his mindset.
Yeah. And sometimes happiness doesn't come with achieving great things. Do you know what I mean? It's like coming back to the six-pack analogy.
Yeah.
When I have a six-pack, I'll be happy. When I'm this dress size, I'll be happy. No, you won't.
Maybe people need approval from external world. So the external will say, you're good enough. Maybe there's issues with parents that they haven't been acknowledged as children.
Yeah, that's it. And like, that's like a need that, like, even if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of human needs, and it's like, that's a self-esteem need. It's like their needs that need to be fulfilled before we even start looking at the desires or wants. And I use that framework a lot. And it's like, even breaking it down to the nitty-gritties, it's like, are you hydrating enough? Are you getting enough sleep? That's a basic. And then we build ourselves up to self-esteem needs. Are you feeling loved? Do you feel appreciated? Do you feel like acknowledged? Do people tell you that you're good? Are you getting recognition? All the way up to your self-actualization, and that's finding peace within yourself. Are you achieving your full potential? Are you doing the things that you have set out to do, that you want to do? And if you're not, are you making steps towards them? Do you even know what they are? And it's like breaking down the needs, making sure that they're satisfied. And a lot of the time, before we even move on to the goals or wants of clients, you find something in their needs that aren't being satisfied or met. And if you meet them, achieving your goals is a lot more realistic and a lot more achievable. Because like these needs, at the end of the day, like you need to have your needs met before you can even move on to anything higher than that.
What's the most important thing you have learned from your clients? Maybe even in a way of self-realization, through reflection, through others.
Okay. Most important thing I've learned. the power of humor, like for sure, because especially in person, if people are coming into a PT session and like traditionally, like in movies, the PT is always screaming at people and very aggressive.
Stereotypes.
Yeah, stereotypes. And like when I was a new PT 3 years ago, like I was so intimidated coming in because I was like, I'm not an aggressive person. I can't stand up here and scream at people. And like now I've learned to, and but I know what clients respond good to that and what don't. And like even if it's one-on-one or if it's in classes or if it's online texting and it's a little bit of humor and it's like taking the piss out of yourself and taking the piss out of them, and it's about knowing who takes it well, and that takes a bit of experience as well, especially in classes. So like, but like the power of like cracking a joke, like people can be like nearly falling off their spinning bike, you crack a little joke and they sit up tall and they're like, okay, they're breathing again. And I think that was just so important for me. It's like, yes, I'm like, I have the qualifications and I've like well educated myself and I'm very, very passionate about it. And I've done loads of extra reading, loads of extra work and extra courses and things like that. And it's great to have the education and the qualifications, and that makes you trustworthy. But building the rapport and maintaining clients is a lot more important. And that's when it comes down to being personable. Trying to just bring a bit of humor into you. You don't have to be the funniest person in the world, but just like don't take yourself too seriously, because like having a coach that makes you feel bad if you missed a workout, and there's ways to go about it, and that comes back down to, again, looking at the individual as a whole person and not as a condition, not as another sign up, not as another payment. It's about being personal with them, and that's what I'm offering. Like it's a very personalized experience. Like I don't have a generic program. I don't have program templates built. I'm going to look at you, see what you respond to, and adapt to that and build with you through that. And again, it's about satisfying their needs before their wants, looking at every single aspect of them, looking at their jobs, their habits, their roles, their routines. It's like all these things impact our time, our ability, our quality, and our quantity of exercise and nutrition, which is so important. So yeah, humor.
On a funny note, if you want to see a bad example of personal trainer, check the movie Pain and Gain with Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah, they showed me.
I'm not going to spoil it to anyone who wants to watch this action comedy, but that's an example of really bad personal trainer.
Yes, it's pretty entertaining though.
We won't really reveal, just watch it. It's on Netflix. Anyway, what I want to say is, so what qualities a good coach, personal trainer, occupational therapist, what qualities do they need?
I think the underlying, like the common denominator between them all is the genuine desire to help people, like genuine passion to see people excel and succeed in their goals, because you're not going to be a successful occupational therapist, a successful coach. Like, yeah, you might get people on. You're not going to keep people on, and you're not going to get good networking, good word of mouth. You need that actual desire to help people. You also need to have the education. You need to have the knowledge and understanding of anatomy, of our muscles, of like all of our different systems. Like what? They're like lymphatic system, our circulatory system, like there's so many systems that we need to know about, how they work. Then we need to have nutrition knowledge, how that impacts us. Like, yes, calories are important, but calories are very important, and that is the energy balance and everything like that, and we all know that. But like there's so many different foods that affect your moods and affect other people differently, and it's about knowing that. So like having that education piece is huge as well. Communication is honestly so important. Communication, and on top of that is collaboration. You can't go in and be, well, you can, because a lot of people do it. Coaches go in and you tell people what they need to do, and this is how they're going to achieve their goals, and this is what they're going to do. They're not going to stick to it. Like people don't like being told what to do. Think back to a child. If you tell a child not to do something, they're going to go do it. So by like telling people what to do directly, it doesn't work. So you need to collaborate with them and work with them to devise a plan together, devise proper goals together. So collaboration, I think, is huge. Communication as well. It's about knowing how to communicate with each client. It's like everyone's different. Again, some people respond really well to kind of tough love and sternness and get into the gym and do that. Other people need that kind of empathy, need that kind of softer approach, need that like kind of more hands-on support. And it's about being able to communicate with them properly and understand how they're going to take their feedback. Then again, I guess understanding people's, their thoughts. Psychology is just a huge one. Like, I think there's a lot of aspects to coaches. There's a lot to do.
The more you study, the more you have different aspects of life.
Yeah, experience.
Fields and experience and how to blend it to become their helper in many ways. What do you think about this trend of especially female personal trainers kind of doing these photo shoots, looking hot and sexy, and then it's like their Instagram page is all about their ass, basically. What do you think about that? How does it drive certain demographics?
Yeah, so I think a lot of those pages...
Is it me? Is it about kind of, look how hot I am, do you want to be hot like me, sign up with me, and you will be hot like me?
Yeah. The sad thing is that it works. Do you know what I mean? It does work, and they're obviously, but I think a lot of those pages as well, heavy majority anyways, is a lot of kind of bodybuilding and body composition goals, and there is so many people still out there that are I don't want to say uneducated, but yeah, uneducated about achieving goals, and they will actually genuinely think if they sign up to their 12-week shred program that they will be looking like them, covered in fake tan, like down to 10% body fat, like at a professional photo shoot. And people will genuinely believe that they'll achieve that. And it sells because it looks good. And
it's
at the end of the day, aesthetic sells. And it's just about like I hate to see it, to be honest, because also a lot of those girls, they had a coach that got them to that position, and some of them aren't even coaches themselves. Some of them aren't even qualified personal trainers, and they're selling their body and they're doing it that way, and it's all for aesthetic reasons. But yes, it sells, but it's not sustainable. So they'll probably have clients signing up, but I'd say, and this is me completely generalizing, but I'd say close to 0% of them actually stay on because they're not actually achieving what they're setting out to achieve. And the coaches aren't actually qualified to give the advice that they probably are giving. And it's probably the same program that they ship out to every single one of them. Probably don't even know their clients' names. But again, that's just me attacking, just because I am so aware of just the mental side of it now. And like the aesthetic side of it drove me into the floor for a while.
Yeah.
What do you think of it?
Yeah, I think it's... Yeah, I find it weird. It's like, it's almost like they come to the level of a stripper.
Yeah.
To expose so much of their body, and plus all of this sort of artificial stuff like fake eyelashes, fake expanded lips, fake boobs, always perfect makeup with tons of filters so they don't actually look natural. Yeah. It's like they present a kind of false image of themselves, or what sort of like what's the beauty, you know, like for me, even personally, like I don't find it attractive if a woman is just so artificially sort of enhanced. I find actually opposite effect. I just see that sort of naturalness of it, and it doesn't look healthy to me. It doesn't look like you know, like there's real beauty in simple, sort of like a natural female look without any enhancements. If anyone is sort of like not happy with their self-image, again, we're coming to psychology about self-confidence, self-image, and then they're chasing that next thing that will, if I do these lips, I'll be good enough.
That's it.
Everybody will love me. I will have appreciation, you know. And
that's so difficult as well for the younger generation.
So they sell a really bad image, which actually makes also the whole sort of social media environment more toxic, especially for young females,
That's
especially
it, yeah.
the age 15. They absorb, they especially, like instead of sleeping, they scrolling, and there's another enhanced woman, another filtered woman, and then you go like, but I'm this, young,
Yeah.
ugly duck, and I would never be good enough unless I do this and that.
Yeah. And it's so difficult for younger generations to understand how powerful filters actually are, because like on Snapchat and things you have those kind of generic filters and everything like that, but like the technology now, it's like you could like the things you can do to your face is just absolutely outrageous. It's like, and now like even now that I'm kind of coming into Instagram, coming into TikTok and trying to understand it, and like the amount of filters, the amount of options to do things, it's like, what? Like, even I was getting my graduation photos developed and there was like a list, and it was like, remove braces, enhance lips, like put on eyelashes. I was like, it's my graduation photo from Trinity. Like, I don't want fake eyelashes. Like, and it's just like, why is that an option? And it's so difficult for younger children to see that, and they're chasing it, and they're chasing that aesthetic, and it actually makes it more difficult for I don't want to say actual coaches, but professional coaches to find their space and actually help people, because people get so drowned in the noise and the saturation of that market that they're chasing that aesthetic. And like, whether it's superficial like me or not, everyone wants to look good. Everyone wants to look the best way that they think that they should and think that they can. And I always use the analogy, it's so easy to fall down a big hole. Like, you put your foot in it, you fall, you trip, you're down. It's so much more difficult to pull yourself back up. So it's like, if someone gets into really, really bad habits of lying down on the couch all day, like you were saying, you can't sit down for more than an hour without getting up and moving and doing a few steps. But people that have been sitting down and being in these bad habits for so long, it is so difficult to break them, and it's so intimidating to break them. Like, if you're at the end of that black hole looking up towards the top of it, you're like, how on earth am I going to get there? A majority of people don't just look down and see if there's rocks. You can start building up and you can start trying to get out. But like, letting yourself kind of fall down that rut, even like coming back from a 5-day trip after you're in a great routine beforehand, you don't have to fall down the hole. You can just dangle your feet in it and then step back up. But people just let themselves fall so easily. And it's like, it's not that intimidating to come back. It's just you make small sacrifices for yourself, and then you slowly build back into it. So you slowly step up 1 foot at a time. And then before you know it, you're standing out of the hole and you're walking on. So like, I always think it, like, I just came back from Mexico for 8 days, and there was an all-inclusive, and it was all drinks and food, a different sleep schedule. And I knew myself coming back, I was like, right, I'm going to be probably hard on myself if I come back now and try to jump into the same routine that I was in before I left. Small steps. So I changed my gym program, made it a little bit easier, started doing the little tasks that like I know are annoying and time consuming to do, like unpack and clean my room and change my sheets and do all these things that are going to make me feel accomplished, and build up my kind of self-confidence that way. Like, self-confidence is a big concept, yes, and like it's an overall concept, but it's everyday things. It's like you can build it up that way so much easier by doing those small things. It's not just going to come overnight. How did we get onto that?
We have a flow.
What was I talking about? The big hole.
Yeah. I didn't ask you any questions from your list.
Oh, did you not?
No, I just flow. I'm just trying to be interactive.
Yeah.
I'm just right here.
Yeah.
And like, where would you like to bring your growth with Jade business? What's your sort of future plans with it? Do you plan to do some more like a website, or just you're on social media? What's your plans, and how would you help people if they sign up with you and follow you? What would they get? What they expect? Yeah.
So I think my like future goal is that I want to develop it into like a bigger business. So take on other professionals. So in terms of like having a physio on board, having a dietitian on board, and taking that professional approach. So all these kind of medical degrees are so sought after, like public waiting lists are so long, and private is extremely expensive. Also, I'm looking to give that holistic approach to fitness. So you're getting so much more than a generic food plan, generic meal plan, a generic fitness plan. You're getting the psychology. I'm almost guaranteeing success because we're going to break it down into such simple steps that every single day you're going to be accomplishing something. Every single day we're going to be celebrating the milestones and then slowly achieving that overarching goal. And it's about, you're getting the psychology part of it. We're looking at your behaviors. I'm going to get to know you. So it's going to be, yes, I'm a coach, I'm a mentor, but I'm going to be a partner for all of my clients, and I'm going to be with them on the journey. And that's the part that makes me so excited and makes me feel so accomplished about it, is seeing them start and seeing them grow. So the whole kind of concept is the growth part, acknowledging your growth instead of just growing, achieving personal growth. So I want to take, in a few years' time, having more professionals on board, just having that more opinion. So clients also have the option, if they don't want to be broken down, if they don't want to look at their psychology or their mental, like they can kind of take bits from places. So looking at our occupational therapy, looking at our psychology, looking at your nutrition, behavior change, fitness, what parts do you want to look at? So it's about that collaboration piece as well. So I'm offering a lot of professional services, but I'm going to be collaborating with every single one of them to see what they would benefit from, what they have time to do. And again, it's giving them the best support that I can. So right now it's just me. I will probably have a website up and running soon. But right now, just starting small, kind of building up my base. I'll be only taking on a handful of clients because I don't want to take on loads of people and not be able to give them the service that they deserve. So right now I have 3 ladies, and they're doing brilliantly. We've only been working together for about 3 weeks, and it's honestly, like, even since 3 weeks, I've just become happier. Like, it's just so cool to see that, like, I'm doing that, like, I'm helping them, and we're on this journey together. And it's just so good for them to have that safety net, that they're not in it alone. So yeah, right now it'll be a small amount of clients, especially while I'm still working, just so I can give them that hands-on service, give them everything that they deserve and all the time that they deserve and need. And then hopefully in a few years' time, as we grow, become fully online, take on more professionals, and then maybe when I settle back home, open up an in-person place. And yeah, develop the brand that way. But fingers crossed, it's going to grow into something big.
Yeah, well, you never know what's going to be in 10 years,
that's
but you're going to arrive somewhere.
Small steps every day.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think that's the big point and big message of this podcast today, is that, having the clear vision is important. Having some kind of direction that you can take steps, and not to overwhelm yourself with doing too much too soon. Be kind to yourself. Invite some humor into your interactions.
Always.
Don't take yourself too seriously, because many times you might be quite wrong.
Yes, that's it. It's embarrassing to be wrong.
You might be in
serious.
denial. And so, yeah. Do you have any thoughts, anything we didn't cover, something that you want to add to what we had? Anything from fitness, nutrition, mindset?
I think we covered a lot of it, but I think that I'm just coming into the coaching world now, online coaching world, and I'm just so excited and so ready. And I just feel like, yes, the coaching world is saturated online. You can say that, but I really feel like I found my space, and I'm just so excited to be able to bring in so much personal experience. And I know I'm still young, but it's been starting since I was like 12. So nearly over 10 years now, I have all this personal experience built up, and I'm ready to help. And also just I believe in constantly learning. Like, I am a coach, yes, but I'll be learning from my clients. I'm listening to podcasts at least twice a day, like constantly doing courses, expanding my qualifications, education, but being mindful as well that I'm able to apply it. And I'm just so excited to get out there and listen to this a year down the line and see where I am at, and hopefully take on more individuals that are just ready to make that change and want that meaning in their life and are motivated to do it. And I'm just there to help them along the way. So yeah, it's really exciting times. Sometimes it can get overwhelming or nerve-wracking, but again, it's about bringing yourself down and shifting your mindset towards making it exciting. And that was a huge thing for me because I was thinking about doing it for probably like a year or two. And I was just like, and I was like, no, it's so exciting. And then I literally just like flipped my mind. I was like, right, I'm doing it today. That's it, launched.
That's awesome.
So yeah, no, it's been great and great to talk about it and verbalize it. And it's kind of even solidified the idea to me even more.
Yeah, I think it's, it's never too late and you're never too young to start acting like you have something to say. I think sometimes this imposter syndrome is that I'm not good enough to start helping people because, I had a really interesting, lovely lady as a coach, as a mentor. Unfortunately, she tragically died in a kayaking accident years ago. Yeah, she was very young. She was in her 30s.
Wow.
And her message was always, Michelle Pearson was her name. And she always said, you only need to be 1 or 2 steps ahead of your ideal client. She was such a brilliant coach and very, very optimistic, very positive. So that made me realize when I was the early years coach that you just need to read that one book, digest the information, and there'll be somebody who they're gonna hire you to get them that step that you start to understand because you read the book. You had, I think I understand that. Yeah. And that's the next step that somebody needs. So it's not that we need to be perfect to start. Yeah. We grow, and in 10 years and 20 years, you're going to be so far ahead, and you're going to look back and say, well, I'm so glad I started. That's it.
And that was the scariest part, was starting. And like, that's it. It's like, you don't need to be perfect. You're never going to be perfect. And if you're waiting to be perfect, you're going to be dead before you start. So it's about just like taking that step, taking that leap. And like, yes, there is an element of imposter syndrome, but I really, really do believe in the concept and the brand, and occupational therapy is an emerging medical degree, and it's so essential, and it hasn't been seen yet in the fitness industry, and a few years down the line, I can guarantee you it will be. And I just I'm really confident in the idea, and I'm confident in my abilities. Right now, we'll see how we go. But there's definitely that, like, there is intimidating because there's coaches out there that have been a coach for 10, 13 years, like yourself. Like, I've been there for 3 years, and I only know so much, but I know enough. And like, I've seen results, and I've seen what I can do, and like, it literally, like, it gives me life, like, it gives me my drive, and it makes me happy. And like, at the end of the day, your happiness is the most important, but I get my happiness by helping others. So if it keeps going that way, it's going to have to work.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Jade, where can our listeners, viewers find you on your Instagram?
Yes. So growth, Jade on Instagram. TikTok. Do I have a TikTok? I think it's growth with Jade too. Yeah, so Instagram is the main platform at the moment.
Put the links there.
Yes, please. And then website should be up and running soon enough, but we're in no rush. Small steps.
Instagram is pretty good, and it does the job.
Yes, it does. Yeah, so while I'm finding my feet, we should be taking on more people soon. So stay tuned for that. And thank you so much. It was amazing.
Thank you very much, Jade.
Really,
it was a pleasure
really
to have
enjoyable.
You.
Thank you so much.